mind work um, lectures on the Chan Buddhism practice of mind. And we'll start the class. Join palms, bow. Recitation of the four great vows. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings of self-nature. I vow to cut off endless vexations of self-nature. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma of self-nature. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood of self-nature. Again, welcome everyone. We're going to continue on with what I had been discussing before. We didn't quite finish it, which is it's a little small sutra, which is entitled The Question of Maitreya on the Eight Qualities. And this sutra is a very wonderful sutra which talks about how one should practice. And even though it's very small in terms of shortness, it is an incredibly deep. And last week we were talking about the eight qualities that were there, I could say maybe a couple of weeks ago. And in these eight qualities, it was mentioned that they was for the Bodhisattva Mahasattva to practice. And the first one was the intention of wanting to practice in a serious way. I'm just going to kind of mention them. I talked about them in great length on the previous recording. And then the second is the application of the practice, the application of what one has understood, and essentially putting it into practice. Also, the quality of giving or generosity, which is one that shows up quite a bit in different lists, whether we're talking about paramitas or whatever. Generosity is very important. And we talked about that the generosity, not just simply of giving the material possessions, which is good because then it lets you release from things that you think that are very valuable to you, and but the giving of time, which is very, very important. Sometimes we're very parsimonious with our time when people are around us, and we may take up their time, but we don't want them to take up our time. But it isn't this way. We should not think in this way and think that time is some wealth that we have to preserve. It is that we give ourselves in the present moment in terms of the practice, and this is this quality that we have, that we can be there if people need help. Sometimes they may need help in the Dharma. Sometimes they need help in their everyday life, and we have to be there for them. It doesn't matter to me whether somebody is a newbie to this group or a senior student. If somebody needs help, I will help them, even if it has nothing to do with the Dharma. But it's just simply lending an ear, lending a shoulder, being guiding in whatever way that needs to be done. This is something that's very important, but it's an excellence in practice that we do. And we also talked about dedicating merit or transferring merit, which is absolutely something that I stress greatly, of learning how to transfer merit, especially with Western students who are not familiar with this idea of transferring merit. And even those who have practiced for a while don't really understand how to transfer merit. They don't really know how we do that. The only way I can tell you is just do it from your heart. Your heart will show you how to do that, to transfer merit. The more one practices the more effective the transfer of merit is, the more effective one's blessings that one gives to others are. The more that we bless people, the more powerful the blessings become. It's something very, very incredible in terms of this, and you will see that on your own. But again, this is also what we talk about in terms of the excellence of the practice. And also, we talked about metta, loving kindness, and how it's not just simply to human sentient beings or our family or anything, but it is to all sentient beings of all times, all locations, wherever they're at, that we understand. Part of our practice is that which understands how sentient beings appear and how they're not different at all. And that they all, because of causes and conditions, have an interest to live. And we'll go into that a little bit more in detail when we talk about the 12 nidanas, but all have the suffering as well because of that. We have also compassion. Compassion is different than simply loving kindness. Where loving kindness is that we have a patience with people, we understand it, we sympathize with them. Compassion is something that is that drives whatever we do here. It gives meaning and purpose and function to being a sentient being. If you think the meaning and purpose and function of a sentient being is to go to school, graduate, get a job, get married, have children, vacation, retire, and die, this is very pitiable to have this kind of an idea of what this body can be used for. This body is so noble. It is something that by this body, we can demonstrate mind. We can demonstrate Buddha. But what we demonstrate, as we will see later, is generated by ignorance, unfortunately. But when we move away from that, there's a special compassion that's there, an interest in changing the environment. This is important for us to understand what that means by the environment. That we become skilled in methods. I refer to this as dhyana. That we become skilled in how to practice, and then in this skilled in methods, it is something that, give me a second here. How do we become skilled in methods? It says, well, Maitreya, such bodhisattva mahasattvas are skilled in conventional truth. They are skilled in absolute truth, and I'll define those in a moment, and they're skilled in both. This Maitreya is how bodhisattva mahasattvas have skill in methods. When we talk about the truths, this is important. The conventional truth we talk about would be apparent reality, conventional, conceptual, we could call it, conceivable. And when we talk about the absolute truth, it is the inconceivable, the non-conceptual, but we have to have a skill in both of those. This is very, very important. I often say that bodhisattvas straddle this phenomenal world and the absolute. And it is just this way that as one progresses with the practice, they understand the conventional, how things are appearing, and they understand, I shouldn't say they, mind understands the absolute. And the absolute just simply being mind. There is not an understanding subject object or duality, but understanding from the absolute does not mean that it negates the phenomenal and the phenomenal simply goes away. The phenomenal is there by virtue of mind itself. It is generated by mind. It can appear to be profane, or it could appear to be sacred, but it's neither of the two, because whether we say neither sacred or profane, we understand that the conventional truth is that these truths are not real in the sense of an everlasting, eternal, immutable reality where it doesn't change. It is by its virtue phenomenal and is constantly changing. It is appearing in mind as a projection, and I've been using the terms lately, is that it's like floating on the surface of the mind, just as if we had an ocean. The projections are just floating there. These projections are not separate from mind. We cannot lift the projections off of the mind ground. Where would they go? They owe their existence to mind itself. But again, here I'm getting very much deeper into it, and I want to still keep this on a little bit of a fundamental level, fundamental in terms of my fundamental, not from Bopo Mofo or ABC training, but fundamental in terms of how you understand these, because these are there. And what it says is that skilled in the conventional, skilled in the absolute, and skilled in both. This is the straddling that a bodhisattva does, because what we're talking about here in the sutra is how a bodhisattva, and in particular a mahasattva bodhisattva, the highest level of bodhisattva, engages in these qualities. And so these qualities that are there that enable us to interact in a proper way with the environment. Again, it gives a direction, a function, a proper function of what to do with this body in this world. It's very interesting in terms of how we look at it. So when it says both, it means that one does not negate the other. If we say everything is real, then that would negate the absolute, because all of this phenomenal would be real. The absolute, being inconceivable, cannot be considered to be real. If we look at the other side and say only the absolute is real and the phenomenal is not, then we cannot explain the appearance of the phenomena. This is very, very important. This is very simple in terms of how we look at it, in terms of how we look at things. There is an acceptance of these two truths, that they neither are, they neither aren't. One isn't real and the other not real. One isn't, and vice versa. This tetralemma. It is just simply, as Nagarjuna said, is that one has to go to the middle way. Well, the middle way is very interesting, because it's not between the apparent reality and the absolute reality. There is no difference in them. They each hold, and in ways, the nature, the true nature of mind. But it is in our ability to penetrate through any preconceived notion, any conceptualization, any kind, and this is the part that's the most difficult, idea of a life in being or a self, any kind of a dualistic way of thinking. Sometimes we sit on the cushion, we sit to meditate. Don't think, don't think. Wow, I'm not thinking. This is so cool. It's so quiet in here. It's just like you sitting inside of an old tin shed with the door closed. It's dark and nothing's happening. But you think that this is some kind of a great experience. It's not. It's just that the self shut up. But it's still there. It's still in the room. You may, by the virtue of mind's own illusions and trickery, have tricked yourself into believing that the self is gone, but it's not gone. It's still there. We have to push beyond that idea that there is a self that is perceiving anything. If we cannot do that, then mind cannot be properly engaged. It is why when I talk about things, I talk about resting the mind in the present moment. Resting the mind, when you go to the cushion, you rest the mind. Where do you rest it? In mind. What is that? There's no what to it. There's no what there. There's no one to be able to define or examine or to do anything with it. But you're afraid. You're afraid of letting go. Or it's too confusing. Or you're too impatient. You know, I'd rather get something, even if it's a shallow understanding, something that I can post in on my wall or to tell people that I saw a little peek of it. You know, sometimes seeing a little peek and having somebody tell you you saw a little peek is the worst medicine they can give you. That point is better just to give you a slap. Just go back to the cushion or go back to practicing. You don't have to be on the cushion to have realizations. I've said this many times. Where did I get it from? From my master, Master Sheng. We talk about meditation because we lure people onto the cushion to practice. But if it's only luring people onto the cushion and there's some magic of crossing your legs, so be it. Then you tell me, how many kalpas do you have to cross your legs to become completely enlightened? And then why does the sutras say just suddenly it can be there in a snap of a finger? The sudden illumination. When we put down the idea that we have an individual ego that is seeing things, then we have a chance. This is the first step. So we have to get rid of this ignorance. This is the absolute truth. The absolute truth represented in the apparent truth. It is in this way that we see things. I forgot my notes upstairs for part of this. But when we see things and we see them in a correct way, we understand that the world is something that is a practice field for bodhisattvas. Entering in the practice field, the worst thing that a bodhisattva can do. What do you think the worst thing that a bodhisattva can do? And even the Buddha said this. He said, if a bodhisattva says that they are delivering sentient beings, they're not my student. What? If a person says that a bodhisattva delivers sentient beings, they're not my student. I thought we were in the business of delivering sentient beings. Let that sink in. The sentient beings, they are illusory, a projection. What exactly are you going to deliver? If in this moment we have the reality of, of Gilbert, take me. Anyway, um, and in a snap of a finger, reality appears. What would you see? You would see this deflated corpus, this body, completely devoid of any nature whatsoever, just like some a rubber body that just shrinks up and collapses. Where would you find me there? Could you see me there? You go, there's Gilbert. No, we need to get a pump him back up again. He needs to teach us the Dharma. Don't worry, some iteration of him will come back again, but you can just throw the body in the dumpster. There's no magic in that. There's nothing there. This is why Master Sheng didn't want people to erect the stupas for him when he died, and he was buried in a public cemetery in 3 different holes, so nobody could say, "Oh, that's him." There's no markings in the cemetery that he's at that people could go and say, "You are here." And ground up all of his ashes into the finest powder so that no one could hold on to a relic of his, a Shirlisi, and say, "Oh, look at how many beautiful rainbows beads there are here." He was a true master. He was true to his practice. Even in his way, he said, just as the uh, his um, uh, teachers before him, if anybody, when you die, comes and you accept condolences from them upon the death, you are not my student. He was very clear and precise in terms of the practice, as I'm clear and precise with you in terms of this way. You cannot be identified by some plaque or a stupa or whatever. The Dharma, even the Dharma, is an illusion. The Sangha are illusion. Only the Buddha is real. But only the Buddha is real if you don't think there is a Buddha behind it. The Buddha cannot be known by the 32 marks. It's a Diamond Sutra. All the way through, it talks about this in this way. So if we're delivering sentient beings, exactly what sentient beings are we delivering? They're all projections. The Buddha asked Manjusri, "Have you attained the level of a bodhisattva?" And Manjusri said, "World honored one, if you have attained the level of a Buddha, I have attained the level of a bodhisattva." And the Buddha said, "Haven't I taught that the level of a Buddha is unattainable?" And he said, quite so, world honored one, and so is the level of a bodhisattva. There's no bodhisattva. Mind is mind, it's indivisible. For some reason, we keep that hidden. Don't tell the kids. You'll scare them. No. If I tell you early on, you have a chance. You have a chance of discovering all this. Why are we so afraid of saying the truth? Tell people. Tell people. Why don't we? Because it's all in the sutras anyway. How could they understand the sutras if they don't know this? This then is when they talk about the when it's talking about the skill and the methods, it's absolute and conventional truth. And then it says how in the final one, which is the emancipation and perfection of wisdom, the eighth is emancipation in perfection of wisdom. And it means that as we are practicing, demonstrating moment to moment this perfected wisdom. What is this perfected wisdom? Everything is created by the mind. Apart from mind, there's nothing else. Even if it's temporary and phenomenal, it still belongs to mind. It is produced by the self-nature of mind in accordance with pratika samappada. Causes and conditions never fail. This is the absolute truth. We apply this absolute truth to the conventional truth or the apparent truth to be able to fathom and understand what is appearing. So this is very, very important because this is where we embark on now, going through all these 8 qualities. The Buddha goes, okay, time out. I'm going to tell you a little more detail about this, this 8th quality of the emancipation in the perfection of wisdom. And if you've been with me for a few months, you understand that I've been talking about demonstrating wisdom for many, many months. And saying that this is the practice, and here he is, and he's showing in this application of wisdom, this is the emancipation, it's liberation. Why? Because it breaks down the idea that there's an ego, a personality, life, or being. There is someone that has some mind or consciousness that needs to be polished, or is the Buddha mind. The Buddha mind is not in this way. We have to let go of all of these preconceptual ideas of what we think the Buddha is, let go of images of the Buddha. Doesn't mean that we don't practice devotionally. It just means that we don't cling devotionally to an image of the Buddha and take it to be real. It is what is understood to be our practice. And within the Buddha statue, I guarantee you, you will not find any relics or shirlisis. Those relics and shirlisis, they too are phenomena. They may appear in this world in accordance with causes and conditions, but they're all created by the mind. Otherwise, how could they be created? How could they be different than anybody else's ashes? So we continue. Well, Maitreya, such bodhisattva mahasattvas correctly train as follows. And the training is he's now going to go into the 12 nidanas or the 12 dependent originations. This is important. This is the eighth quality is penetrating through mind via the 12 nidanas. And it is telling you this is how things come into being. Look at it and look at the source of where it comes from. It's very important. So let's start with that. This is kind of like telling you the end story at the very beginning, but it's worth it because it may help you understand the rest of it. Let's see what he says. They think because one thing exists, another one arises. Because this is born, then that is born. So when we're looking at it, it's a little bit different. The Buddha would say, because of this, that. But when he's saying that because of this, that, what he's doing is defining apparent reality. And so here he's kind of repeating that in a way in which he's saying that if something exists or something arises because of this. But when we live our life, we don't even get to that point. We just live our life without any idea of what's causing the next moment. Why did I have that thought? Why did this person show up? What happened here? Wouldn't you rather know what's going to happen next? Not bad, right? Pretty good. It's like having at least a 10-second delay that they have on TV where they can cut out all of the vulgar language that somebody is saying so other people don't hear it. Perhaps that might not be a bad thing if you had a 10 or 15-second delay of carefully policing what you're going to say, think, or do next. Not bad, right? It could cut out a lot of mistakes. It's in this way. The Buddha's telling you this right now. Look, this is the way it is, but you don't understand that. Why don't you understand that? Because the you that wants to understand it can never understand it. Conditioned by ignorance. So here we start right from the very beginning. Conditioned by ignorance, meaning if ignorance arises in mind, then the following 11 nidanas will appear. But wait a second, wait. So what is being conditioned here? What is being conditioned? Anybody know? Anybody want to know what is being conditioned? He's saying conditioned by ignorance. So what is it that is being conditioned? Come on. Yes, Tori.
I'm guessing it's habitual tendencies.
Say it.
Habitual tendencies.
Habitual tendencies? Whose habitual tendencies?
The projected person, ego.
You're getting to hell ahead of yourself. Oh. we'll get to you later. Okay. Anybody else? But thank you for contributing. Senta?
Mind.
Mind. It's mind that's being conditioned. Conditioned by ignorance. Whose ignorance is it? Mind's ignorance. But what does the Heart Sutra say about ignorance? There is no ignorance, no ending of ignorance. Right? So all of this apparent reality is an illusion. It's a projection. Why? Because when we return everything back to its source, before ignorance, it's mind. Because ignorance itself is an illusion, whether it's before or after, it's always mind. Always mind. Not your mind. Mind. It's mind all the way through. But because it's conditioned, it begins to appear as if it is something separate and apart from mind. It is not. It's just simply an illusion. This is why the Buddha said that if you think that you're going to deliver sentient beings, you're not my student. What sentient beings are we talking about? What part of the Huining's no is the no of no what? There's no what, because there's no one to ask the question what. In order to say what, we would have to establish that there is a life, ego, personality that exists, which is not there. Because right from the very beginning, conditioned by ignorance, there's an appearance, but it in fact is not real. If you get it at this point, you don't even need to go to the rest of the 11 nidanas. You're already home. And some of you, when you get experiences, you realize, hey, I was always home. You didn't even have to click your heels together and say, there's no place like home. You already had it. Hell, even in The Wizard of Oz, they figured that out. No place like home. Just click your heels and say, there's no place like home. Just don't tell them Gilbert told you to take that. Okay, here we go. Karmic formations, and if you could put that up, I would appreciate it, Shanta. This was on page 13 of the 21 pages. Karmic formations, oh, you got it, good, come into being. So here we go, and we see there's formations. This is the second nidana. The first one, ignorance, in Sanskrit is called avidya. So you'll see this word sometimes in sutra, so you kind of get familiar with a word like this, avidya, meaning vidya would be something that would be wise. The preference of an A means that it's not wise. And so we have avidya for ignorance. And then the second one here is formation. And it says, as long as there's ignorance, there is formation of karma, positive, negative, and neutral. This forms the rebirths in various realms. So this is this beginning of coming into being. And so then we get to the next one. It says, conditioned by these karmic formations. So all of a sudden now this karma's coming up. It's like going, oh, there was this ignorance. And what you thinking about? I don't know, but this is kind of strange. Well, let's just keep going. And then there's a formation. So something's beginning to be formed with all of this. And voila, all of a sudden you have some sense of a body, but it's actually a disembodied body because it's not really real. It's a phantom or a phantasm, but it is taken because of the ignorance to be real. So there's this formation of a body. Whether the body is the body in the desire realm, or the form realm, or the no form realm, nevertheless, there's a formation of something. When we talk about this, you have to split that up instead of just saying formation of something, because something presupposes that there's actually a real thing there. But when we say something, it's not really a thing. Okay, so then we get to consciousness. So formation is samskara, and consciousness, you've heard this term before, vijnana, right? And vijnana, I'm sorry, vijnana. Um, and um, and so this is consciousness. And so consciousness comes into being. What is it? If we have this body that's there and it's ignorant, it's looking for something, and it's going like, wow, I've got fingers, I've got whatever, I'm there. And again, I'm compressing zillions of years or whatever that it took for these things to do. We cannot really call them years because there wasn't even an earth at that time. So who knows how long it would take? It could have been a snap of a finger, assuming that they went like that with, hey, I could snap my fingers. And then you come into being, voila, you come into being. I'm taking poetic license with all of this, but to let you kind of understand what's happening here in mind, because it's all in mind. This is all an illusion. It's a dream of mind. The source of that dream is mind itself. Hang in there. So it says the consciousness which propels one forward towards next existence is called impelling consciousness. And the consciousness that is led to that particular state, once the conditions have come together, is known as the consciousness of the impelled result, meaning there's something that's moving it towards some consciousness, and then it comes into being. Now, what does this sound like? This is a real wild way of looking at it, but see if you can figure out what is something in Buddhist studies that sounds like this, that we have this impelling consciousness and impelled result. Do you know of any states in which this happens? Senta? Okay, it's all right.
Pratitya Samutpada?
No, the bardo.
Oh,
The bardo. See, once I say it, I know you'll get it. It's this way. So we have this impelling consciousness going, you could say, from this consciousness that now is beginning to become converted into sperm, heading for the ovum, and not the scale. But in any case, it's heading there, and this is the impelling consciousness. Boom. Now there's a resultant consciousness, an appearance of a separate life or ego that comes in, that is being moved towards that. This is the process of becoming. But becoming is still illusory, but we think we're real. We think that this is how we came into this world. So then we go back here because we had gotten to consciousness comes into being. And then the next one is name and form come into being. Well, you got to give it a name. What is it? Wow, it's a crying baby. For God's sakes, do something for it. It comes into this world, and right away it wants and it suffers. I want air, I want air, I want air. And then it says, I want food, I want food, I want warmth, I want touch. Oh, and it never stops, right? Just crying baby. And when the Dharma comes along, it puts a stopper in it. The Four Noble Truths. Suffering exists. You suffer. What's the cause of suffering? You hang on to yourself. And there's a way to get rid of it, really. Turning to the Dharma wheel, there's no suffering. There's no being. How can there be suffering? Okay. So then from here, we have, again, this name and form, which is nama rupa. Rupa is normally, if you say rupa in Sanskrit, you'll see it as a reference to form. And arupa is no form. So by the power of consciousness, one is linked to a womb. Oh, there it is, right? One is linked to a womb. And there the body develops. We were just talking about the bardo, and there it is. The form and the four named skandhas of sensation, perception, formation, and consciousness. So we have the five skandha: form, sensation, perception, volition, and consciousness. Now they're all coming up. All right, name and form come into being. And then what happens after we have name and form, all these things? If you've got form, right? We already established form when it came in, and now we have an embryo, and it's got hands, and it's this way. So it has the skandha there: form, sensation, perception, volition, and consciousness. It's there. Pop up, pop up, pop up, pop up, pop up, pop up. Time to go. Out it comes. And what comes out with this fetus, this baby that comes into the world, is the senses. So the six senses come in. And so from this, we get to the fifth, which is the six atayanas. Let me see what they call it here. The six sources of perception come into being, or conditioned by the six sources of conception, and then contact comes in. I'm getting a little bit ahead, but the atayanas are the sense faculties. We could call sometimes the 18 realms, which is the organ of each sense, the operation of that, and the subject of it, or the realm of it. Those are the 18 realms, 6 times 3. And so sight, sound, taste, smell, touch, and thought, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. And there is no realm of the eye all the way through to no realm of mental cognition. Now I'm getting ahead of myself and saying, when we're devolving the idea of a life and being, this is how we do it via the Heart Sutra. These things aren't real. Shariputra, they're not real. They're empty. It doesn't negate the appearances of them. It just sees them as from where its source is. We back it all up at this point, and we look and say, where did the ignorance come from? It came from mind. So it belongs to mind, not to the ego, not to you. Mind, not your mind. Mind. This makes a big difference. If you sit on a cushion and it's just mind sitting, it's different than you trying to polish your so-called mind. We continue. If I can get through all of these 12 in 10 minutes, I'm a genius. Okay. So then from these contacts, of then from the Atayana, there's contact. I've got all this stuff. What am I going to use it for? How you doing? Good. Why are you making me feel so sad? But I love you, but you don't love me. But hello, can you see me? I'm here. Contact. Sparsa is called in Sanskrit. The coming together of objects, sense faculty, and consciousness is contact. We have contact with the world. Who's we? It's just an illusion, a projection, but it's perceived this way, and these habitual accumulations begin to add up, and all of a sudden, what are separate little miniature thought moments all of a sudden become stringed together as if it forms some kind of a string of beads. But it isn't in this way. Each of these are rupa, but they're separate. We don't see that they're conditional appearing. They're not real. But we take them to be this way, and we take them and we follow them all the way to our death. It's okay. You'll get another string of beads coming up the next lifetime. So then we have from there, let's see, conditioned by feeling, and then we have, so that was sensation, and then craving, and I don't know how to pronounce this correctly. It's TRSNA, Trensa, craving.
Krishna.
Krishna, thank you. There was missing a vowel there, so Trishna. Trishna's craving. I thank Santha. She's been taking Sanskrit classes, so that's good. So Trishna, craving, and it develops a desire not to be separated from pleasurable sensations and to be free of painful sensations. So all of a sudden, this craving is one that creates opposites, likes and dislikes, sacred and profane, duality. So now here the duality is coming in more and more, and there's more subject and object, more strengthening of this illusion of an ego, personality, life, or being that was not really there from the beginning. To tell you, if you go back to the first ignorance, it wasn't there. It's a fabrication. That's what the Buddha was saying. And people were going, what? And he said, no, what? And they go, what? No. So there was craving, and then there's grasping. Upadanya, or upadana? Upadana, okay. Which is grasping. Let me see where it is here. Grasping comes into being. So there's grasping. As craving increases, it develops into grasping, actively striving never to be separated from what is pleasurable and avoid what is painful. So we're actively striving to do this, but get a look at this. Even if we look at environmental factors, what is your range of, for instance, temperature range in which you're comfortable at? No. Using Fahrenheit, is it, I'm comfortable anything above 65 degrees to 90 degrees. You know, people like Eon, it's like minus 10 below. But not all of us have that kind of a range. But it's something that that we are always looking to try to get that soft spot there. But then we become the judge of the world. It's too loud, too crowded, too this, too that, too salty, too sugary, too this, whatever. And so all of this is aging us. We're getting tired. It's burning us out, constantly striving to make this body happy. It's the body we have. We got to take care of it. We got to do whatever, but don't just fall into self-love of your body. Use it. It's a tool. Take care of it. If it was a lawnmower, you would take care of it, clean it, maintain it, make sure it works all the time. Keep it the blade sharp, right? You don't have to put paint it and put decals. That won't help that much to do things. Just make it functional. So if people ask you, what did Gilbert teach tonight? Just tell them, he said, I'm a lawnmower. Okay. To mow the lawn? No, a lawnmower. Okay. Becoming. You see, here we are, and all of a sudden, because of this active striving and everything, we become. What do we become? Not anything we really want to be, but we become. And meaning comes into being, all of a sudden, you're a separate person. Through grasping, one acts with body, speech, and mind and creates karma that determines the next existence. So because of all of this stuff, then we're setting forth what is going to happen in the next existence. We're already accumulating all of this karma in doing that. And so it says, then conditioned by existence, birth comes into being. Voila, here you come. Right out of your mother's womb. And you're here again, right? You'd think you had enough of it the previous incalculable number of lives, but here you come again. And so you're here. But if you come and you go by birth, those who live by the sword die by the sword. And you also will have then conditioned by birth, aging, and death. You come into being, as well as misery and lamentation, suffering, unhappiness, and agitation. So this is your end product, is aging and death. But we understand from the Heart Sutra that there is no aging and death. Why? Because we understand, we read the very first part of the 12 Nidanas where it said ignorance. Ignorance is not a thing. It is a projection, a blip, a mistake. If you see things in that way, then you will understand that how things work. You will not be confused. All of the sutras talk in this way. So we get to the next part. And then the next part here, 1.17, so we move the text up, Santa.
Keep going, Gilbert. I just need to find the right way to move it here.
No problem. If you can find it, you find it. I'll just keep reading. If you put it up, it's fine. When these conditions cease to exist, it also ceases. So when the conditions cease to exist, it also ceases. That's why when we practice in meditation, we get rid of the all of the 12 nidanas. They collapse. It is the same as in the Yogacara school, where the first through the seventh consciousness, the Vijnanas, all collapse. There's nothing to support them. Being nothing to support, they're seen by mind as exactly as what they are, which is a phantasm, something that is floating on the surface of the mind. Even if they still appearing to mind, they're still seen as a projection. There is no ignorance there. There is simply the wisdom that sees and penetrates through all of these projections and does not take these projections to be real, but it doesn't take them to be unreal. It understands that for these projections to have appeared, they would have been created by mind. But we understand that because any sentient being holding on to it will produce suffering, there's an interest in mind to wake up from the dream. The dream is not real, but so long as the dream continues, mind is enveloped in this illusory suffering. So, and it goes through in a way where it just says if one ceases, the 12 nidanas, then the next one ceases. So it's just going through them, but saying it's like a house of cards, each layer beginning to crumble. If we take the ignorance from the top and that collapses, then we take the next one and it collapses. It just continues to collapse until all of these illusory conditions and nidanas collapse. And says this Maitreya is how a bodhisattva, mahasattva have emancipation in the perfection of wisdom. So seeing things in this way is how one practices. Maitreya, if a bodhisattva, mahasattva, sorry, we jumped to the next page already, possesses those 8 qualities, they will become irreversibly set on the supreme and perfect enlightenment without regressing. So it's saying that, if we possess these 8 qualities, this possession of these 8 qualities means that not possessed in terms of somebody holding on or attaching to them, but it means that if a bodhisattva has these qualities and demonstrates these qualities, that's why it says without regressing, because it's the demonstration of those 8 qualities that makes it work without regressing, meaning you don't keep falling back into the dream state and then it doubles down on that because it says without regressing, and it says without regressing in the slightest. This is very, very important. In the slightest. So it meaning you practice impeccably. You don't practice one way one day and another day you practice differently, and indulge yourself in your self-pity or whatever else is happening. I don't mean to minimize anything that's happening to people, yet it appears to be real for you, but I'm telling you how to be able to deal with it. So when you see that, then we understand we have strength in the faith in the Buddha, faith in mind, to be able to overcome that so that we don't regress in even the slightest. And we'll gain special attainments. This is interesting too here because he's throwing the cookies out to you. He's saying you're going to gain special attainments. You're not really going to do it, not you going to do it. It's just the self nature of mind that has the ability to know everything. It has the ability to know from the distance what is happening. It has the ability to know the thoughts of others. It has the ability to know a health condition of a person, that has the ability to know what will happen to this person in the next moment, or 2, 3, 4 moments later. What has happened to them in the past. All of these are special attainments that, so long as one does not hold on to them, they're naturally appearing in accordance with the demonstration of wisdom, because mind is so powerful. Of course, it's going to be able to. If mind is powerful enough to create this samsaric illusion, it's much more powerful to do things way beyond that, far beyond what is conceivable within this samsaric perception. So it's talking about these special attainments. They will vanquish negative and hostile influences. So they're not going to fall back on negative things. If one has, let's say, some substance abuse problem or habitual patterns, they were not going to keep repeating them and repeating them. They will vanquish them. And or anger, greed, hatred, ignorance, the three poisons, will be vanquished. And while engaging in the conduct of a bodhisattva, they will realize the intrinsic characteristics of all phenomena just as they are, and therefore be indefatigable in samsara. And this is very important. I don't know if I have that. Very important term. But let's go to the part where it says that they will realize the intrinsic characteristic of all phenomena just as they are. This is referenced in distinguishing phenomena from its intrinsic nature. One of the treatises of Maitreya, Milafo, taught to a Sangha and to Sita heaven, and they're saying you will be able to distinguish these characteristics of phenomena from its intrinsic nature, which is the self-nature of mind. You're going to be able to do that without any duality or any distinguishing separate and apart from mind itself. This is very powerful. And it says, therefore, indefatigable in samsara. And I looked up this word indefatigable, sorry, because it's in the smallest writing, but it says, in Buddhism, indefatigable signifies a selfless commitment to guiding others towards maturity, embodying relentless effort and dedication without pursuing personal gratification, reflecting the essence of altruism in the spiritual practice. That's a great definition. And when I read that word, I saw how incredibly deep it was. So I purposely looked it up in a Buddhist dictionary, and there it was. And its precise language as to what it means is that we don't give up, we don't slide back. There's no we, the bodhisattva that is delivering sentient beings. There's neither bodhisattva nor sentient being to deliver. It's the function of mind and seeing things just as they are. But it doesn't negate the bodhisattva, doesn't negate the sentient being. It just simply presents the understanding of the essence of things and the function of how a bodhisattva, because that's what it's saying, that if a bodhisattva irreversibly sets itself on the supreme enlightenment without regressing, that's what it's talking about. That's what you're doing. You're doing this. And some of you are getting really good at it. I mean, seriously. And so it says, through the pristine awareness that does not rely on anything else. Where have you heard that from, right? The Diamond Sutra? Give rise, do not give rise to anything that is supported. I probably switched this around. Give rise to the mind that is nowhere supported. And so when we see this in this way, give rise to the mind that is nowhere supported, means it's not supported by phenomena. This is the key. This is Nagarjuna's key. This is where mind goes. It's very incredible. Okay, and then so it says, then after the Blessed One had spoken these words, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Maitreya, together with the monks as well as all the worlds of gods and men, demigods, Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the Buddha. And the Buddha said, I'm looking here. Oh, had said, I'm sorry, that's the end of it. Okay, good. It took me a little bit longer, so I'm sorry that I ate into your question time, but it was important for me to get through all of that. And hopefully you'll understand the 12 Nidanas a little bit more and won't be afraid of them. And you begin to understand how things appear to be created when they're in fact not created. So I will open it up to questions. Thank you for listening. Yes, Jake.
Thank you, Gilbert. I wanted to ask about, I guess, how do the Bodhisattva vows fit in with the 12 Nidanas?
You speak up a little louder, please.
How do the Bodhisattva vows fit in with the 12 Nidanas?
The Bodhisattva vows are such that it is vows that understand that it isn't this samsaric world, but it is endless time, that the Bodhisattva vows are never extinguished and they don't die with a person. They go on. So it's a clear understanding that everything is created by the mind, and it sets forth into motion the interest of countless lifetimes that bodhisattvas will appear provisionally in the world to deliver sentient beings of an illusory nature. So this is how it works. And it understands that. It understands the appearances of bodhisattvas in the world, but with the understanding that the bodhisattvas themselves have no interest in attainment, nor seek the attainment of enlightenment of any sentient beings, but are working through the process to awaken the mind under the guise of sentient beings to the self nature of mind. That's how you would explain it. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so continue on what you just explained. My question is, so when Bodhisattva appear provisionally, they do not follow the entire 12 Nandana, not even the ignorance?
They don't what?
The way they appear in this world, like having a human body, but it's not following the 12 Nandana.
I missed the last part. You said following something.
The 12 links you just explained in this lecture.
They are in harmony with those 12 links. They understand how things come into being, and they use that harmony and understanding and wisdom to be able to move sentient beings away from those illusory notions. They are operating on wisdom. Even though they possess the body of a sentient being, they do not possess the obstructions of a sentient being. That's why in the one Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment, it talks about bodhisattvas being in the world, but not of the world. So they are not of the 12 nidanas, but they're in harmony with it.
Ah, okay, okay.
Good
Thank you.
questions. Both of your questions are good questions.
I have another question.
$5. By the way, I've never gotten $5 from any of you cheapskates.
No, I
So,
paid your luggage once. That's $30.
all right.
All right. Okay, so my second question is, see you destroy. What's that? Oh, so if a bodhisattva sees sentient being to deliver, that's not bodhisattva. But okay, so I'm kind of the opposite. I see everybody as bodhisattva. They are helping me. So, is that still pretty wrong?
There's nothing wrong with that. However you see things in this way, you just see them. If you see, that is why I told Shifu, if you don't deliver me first, I will deliver you. It is the same thing, because the nature of whatever is there in these sentient beings is nevertheless mind itself. It's the Buddha mind. So one is encountering Buddhas wherever they're going, you encounter a Buddha. It's just that the Buddhas are slumbering, so they don't know it's like someone who was a king of a kingdom that was stolen, at birth by a mean ant and was, given to the peasants. But they're not aware of their true nature is of royalty. Maybe I've been watching too many Chinese dramas, but in any case, the thing is that it is in that way they're not aware of that. But our job is to awaken them and say, no, do you know who you are?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it works both ways. Okay.
Okay.
So what you do is you set upon delivering them, awakening them. This is your function. Okay. And in turn, they will present to you the way to do it. Because as I begin to teach people go, oh, I get this now. And I'm going, wow, that's good. Now I know how to talk to other people with this. And not only that, but the power of my vows strengthens. It's like every time I can bring somebody to a realization, the power of the mind becomes more incredibly effective in this world. It will grow by exponential proportions. Okay, this may not be understandable to most people, but it is in this way. It grows very, very powerful, very quickly. But one has to do that, just like what they said were very important when they said that that it has to be irreversible and irreversible without regressing in the slightest, meaning that you don't keep sliding back and sliding back, always moving forward with the practice, going deeper in the Dharma, deeper. The ones that have been doing this, have gotten further along simply because of their ability to push through and keep pushing and pushing through all of the habitual patterns that appear in the mind. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
That's good, because you're working on it. You're further along than you think you are, but don't pat yourself on the back yet. Not yet. Okay. Other questions? Nobody? Oh, wait, Sean, go ahead.
Continue with Jake's question.
Oh, you speak louder because you're.
Oh no. continue with Jake's question with what's the relationship between the vow and the 12 nidanas. Here's my thinking. Both 12 nidanas and the vows coming from mind. But 12 nidanas is following that 12 links. But the vow is knowing the nature of 12 nidanas and it's going against the sequence of, it's going upwards the other way to remove the suffering, to remove the ignorance eventually. That's my understanding. And it just when Jake asked that question, I think. I'd like to have your comment on that. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. When also Yu Ping's question.
Go ahead.
Her question is basically how the Bodhisattva come into being. They don't basically do they follow the 12 nidanas because ignorance they have a birth and death. But actually, the Bodhisattvas come into being through vows. They clearly know in harmony with the 12 nidanas. They know how to utilize it to come into being. But that's coming the vow, knowing the nature of ignorance. But that ignorance can be used to come into being. That's my second understanding. Thank you.
Why do you need me to say anything about it? It's fine. It's just the way you say it. It's this way. Let me explain something to you using my, I don't know if you can see that or not. Can you see it? Tiong and essence and function. So what you talked about, the knowledge of the 12 nidanas is the essence. The yong, the function is carrying out the vows. So they work like that. Very wonderful. The rest of it, you already figured it out, so that's good. Anyone else? I know that tonight's lecture and some of the lectures I've been doing have been pretty deep, but hang in there with it. Be patient with it. This is good stuff. This is really, really good stuff. And if you follow me along different types of platforms that I'm working on, you'll find all of this is fitting together. And there's a group working on the Perfection of Enlightenment Sutra, and my commentary there is actually much deeper than even what I'm going with here, if you can imagine. But it is extremely powerful, and you'll see sometimes on the Mindwork forum, I will post what I'm doing on the other forums simply because I want to share it with as many people as possible, and so it is just that powerful, and I thank people that are commenting and participating, because what this is all about is to bringing about these kinds of realizations. Not easy stuff, because it's not something that you can conceive of, whatever. You cannot hold it in your hand. It holds you in its palm. And so I think the Theravadins kind of, they misnomered when they said liberation at the palm of your hand. I think the liberation is the palm of the Buddha hand, and not your hand. There's no you there to do that, and you have to keep banging away at that, so you move away from apparent reality, but you don't fall into the absolute reality where there's nothing there. You have to understand that there is this, as I mentioned, this Tiong, which is very important, because that came, and that's indigenous to Chinese and peculiar to the way they did. It came from the Zhao period. You know the Zhao period, Wei Shan? Zhou. So it predates Buddhism coming in. It's already been there. It's indigenous in terms of the manner in which it is, which is very important because that's what makes Chan Buddhism Chan Buddhism. It takes the best of everything that went before it, whether it's Abhidhamma, Yogacara, Madhyamaka, Huayan, Tian Tai, the Sun Lun School, the three treatises, and the Wei Shu, all of those all pour into Chan, and they work. And all the Tathagata Garbha sutras and the treatises from the Yogacara school is very amazing. We bring all that together. Don't think, oh, this is too much. How I ever learned all of this? Little by little. It's how I did it, little by little. It takes time. The one thing is you have a well-known advisor that helps you guide and gives you the really good little nuggets that you can begin to fit together. And then your own self-study can fill in where you think you have an interest in. Your mind will teach you. Just let your mind teach you. It will guide you. You'll be very surprised how it works. It sometimes is very, very amazing. Some of the things that happen, they truly are, like when the Buddha was talking about special attainments that one can get. I've often had questions come up from students, and I've gone to my bookshelf and opened up a book randomly and to a random page and found the answer. What's the probability of doing that? But it happens. It happens too regularly to be just some kind of a breakdown in the law of averages. But it happens because mind is that way. Mind has that ability. You have to trust, have faith in the mind. If you have the faith in the mind, it will guide this body in the right way. Okay? All right. One last question? Anybody? Okay, go ahead.
Gilbert, thank you so much. I just have a comment. This is so helpful. Even though you say it's very deep, but the 12 Nidanas is actually very basic knowledge for Buddhism. And I think if I have a friend who's interested in it, I would definitely refer them to this video recording, because I think one's understanding of how this works, and also how you tie it into something that is basic into mind, right? The deeper concepts, I think it really helps them, in terms of like every day and just be able to navigate through their vexations, whatnot. I think it's so helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I think in this way, as you begin to see it, you see that although that was there and the 12 Nidanas are there, it is your practice, your sincerity in the practice that brings those Nidanas to life. It brings them in a way, not from ignorance this way, but mind, and from mind's own perception that enables it to see all these machinations of mind itself, and seeing all of these things come from mind. It is that ability of you to place mind in mind that enables this, the preciousness of this Dharma to come, because we can do that, and I can teach a basic class with people, but they're still not going to get it right off the bat. Eventually they'll get it, but if we present it and present it and present it, later on it becomes something easy. But mind will literally pull you in. It will pull the idea of the ego off, and just like somebody shucking corn, just pulling off all of the leaves and everything, and there it is. a golden kernel. And it's always been there, but it was hidden under all of these habitual patterns that are in the 12 Nidana. But if we teach the 12 Nidanas on the Theravadan level or the Shravaka level, or even to the metaphysical level of Mahayana and the emptiness, we still cannot transcend to the esoteric. It requires a great sincerity and faith to do that. That's why I'm always telling you, jump, go, don't have any fear, let go. I don't know how to explain that. I wish I could explain it more, to say, let go in the present moment, just let go. And you can do it. You can do it. It's there, but sometimes it appears to be unfathomable to say to let go of the ego. But if you do that, then mind becomes so clear. Everything is just there. And again, there are many of you who are right there. Some of you have already passed through the door. You've gotten a peek and pulled yourself out. Others have gone in and stayed in, and it just depends. But that is like somebody in the karate system, when they get a black belt, that's when they really begin to become a practitioner of karate, is at that point. Now they're at the door, and that's where we really start beginning practice in earnest about how things are. But just always remember about this idea. I think it's very important. The title of Mila Fo's treatise to Asanga of distinguishing phenomena from its intrinsic nature. That title, in and of itself, is a powerful, powerful message. And as one begins to read it, it is something that is truly amazing. I'm reading another one of the treatises that Asanga wrote down from Milafo, and it starts out talking about emptiness and how there's emptiness and not emptiness and not emptiness, and it says, if you can understand that, that's it. There's nothing more. And I'll try to bring that phrase next week. But it was just like the Milafo going and saying this and just going like this and saying, that's it. If you understand this, don't even bother reading the rest of it. It's all there. It's just that way. So when we say it's neither real or empty or not empty or not empty, your mind cannot function in trying to hold so many knots in there. If one reads it with sincerity and understanding, it's not just some silly word game that Maitreya is doing, but is actually the secret entrance right in the very beginning. It's amazing. And this is what I'm trying to do, is show you, okay, herein lies the secret entrance. You want to go in? It's one of the 84,000 doors. Try it. You'll get there. It's very amazing. So thank you, Tori. Thank you very much. Keep practicing. You guys are, you're hanging in there, and this is some good stuff to learn. So we'll pick it up next week. So thank you very much again. Take care. Blessings to